there, grade 7 students. It has been a great academic year, right? And I can't wait to see how awesome you'd be. I am Ma'am Imee, and welcome to our English class, where there will be a lot of excitement, discovery, and amazing challenges on the way. Are you ready? Let's go! Now, to begin with, we will play a game that I know you all are familiar with. It is called 4 Pics and 1 Word. The following slides will show the 3 sets of pictures, and I will give you 10 seconds each to answer them correctly. Amazing, class! We got the words Filipino, identity, and literature. Now, what do you think of this activity? How do you think it is connected to our lesson for today? Any guess? You're right! For today, we will be developing your understanding of Filipino culture and identity through literature. So make sure to listen carefully as we go through our lesson for today. So let's begin!
At the end of the lesson, this will be your key takeaways. First, identify social and cultural factors that help shape our identity. Recognize local color as it was used in the selection. Understand how the selection serves as an avenue in establishing Filipino identity. And finally, distinguish Filipino customs from foreign culture.
Also, you will be receiving amazing points for every correct answer. So keep on collecting them until the end of this video to obtain a high score of grade. Understood? Now, are you ready? It's time for you to bring out your self-learning module, pen and paper, and we will begin.
The war had just ended in the Philippines and life was back to normal. The story you are about to read is based on an incident common during the liberation period. To know about the title of the story, arrange first the jumbled letters on the boxes. Clue: they refer to traits that are unique to us, Filipinos. Good luck, the headmaster.
Who invited the headmaster? But anyway, class, help me figure this out. Do you know the answer for number 1? We have 5 seconds to guess it right. Great! The answer for number 1 is hospitable. We Filipinos are hospitable. How about number 2? Amazing! The answer is generous. We Filipinos are generous. How about number 3? This one is a bit longer, so I hope you'll still guess it right. Very good! The answer is family-oriented. We Filipinos are family-oriented.
Well done! Now, time to reveal the title of the story. We Filipinos Are Mild Drinkers by Alejandro R. Roses. For my last reminder, as you read the story, notice the following. Philippines set up during the liberation period, how are Americans described in the story, use of the non-English words calamansi and lambanog, detailed description of the clothes, and other customs particular to the Philippines. That's all. I asked Teacher Imee to take charge starting here. Thank you, and until we meet again, grade 7 learners, the headmaster.
Alright, class. Are you excited to know the story? I feel the same way too. So what are we waiting for? Let's begin!
We Filipinos are mild drinkers. We drink for only 3 good reasons. We drink when we are very happy, we drink when we are very sad, and we drink for any other reason. When the Americans recaptured the Philippines, they built an air base a few miles from our barrio. Yankee soldiers became a very common sight. I met a lot of GIs and made many friends. I could not pronounce their names. I could not tell them apart. All Americans look alike to me. They all look white.
Now, class, I will ask you. What impression of American soldiers does the narrator tell about in the beginning of the story? Can you tell me your answers, class? Correct! The narrator described the Americans as people who all look the same because they are all white. Here, skin color is emphasized to draw the difference between us Filipinos and Americans. Great, class! Sending amazing points on your way. Now, let's continue to know more about the story.
One afternoon, I was plowing our rice field with our carabao named Datu. I was barefooted and stripped to the waist. My pants, that were made from abaca fibers and woven on homemade looms, were rolled up to my knees. My bolo was at my side. An American soldier was walking on the highway. When he saw me, he headed towards me. I stopped plowing and waited for him. I noticed he was carrying a half-pint bottle of whiskey. Whiskey bottles seem part of the American uniform. "Hello, my little brown brother," he said, patting me on the head. "Hello, Joe," I answered. All Americans are called Joe in the Philippines. "Any bars in this town?" he asked. That was usually the first question American soldiers asked when they visited our barrio. "I am sorry, Joe," I replied. "There are no bars in this barrio." "Oh hell, you know where I could buy more whiskey?" "No, Joe, I am sorry. We do not drink whiskey." "Here, have a swig. You have been working too hard," he said, offering me his half-filled bottle. "No, thank you, Joe," I said. "We Filipinos are mild drinkers." "Well, don't you drink at all?" "Yes, Joe, I drink, but not whiskey." "What the hell do you drink?" "I drink lambanog." "Jungle juice?" "I guess that is what the GIs call it." "You know where I could buy some?" "I have some you can have, but I do not think you will like it." "I like it, all right. Don't worry about that. I have drunk everything. Whiskey, rum, brandy, tequila, gin, champagne, sake, vodka." He mentioned many more that I cannot spell. "Say, you sure drink a lot, don't you?" "I not only drink a lot, but I drink anything. I drank Chanel No. 5 when I was in France. In New Guinea, I got Suze on Williams shaving lotion. When I was laid up in the hospital, I got pie-eyed with medical alcohol. On my way here in a transport, I got stoned on torpedo juice. You ain't kidding when you say I drink a lot. So let's have some of that jungle juice." "Alright," I said. "I will just take this carabao to the mud hole. Then we can go home and drink." "You sure love that animal, don't you?" "I should," I replied. "It does half of my work." "Why don't you get 2 of them?" I did not answer.
What again was the only drink that the narrator could offer? Very good, class. The only drink that the narrator could offer was lambanog. Do you know, class, that lambanog is a traditional liquor that is made from coconut oil that has been aged for at least 48 hours. Yes, lambanog is purely unique to us Filipinos. Awesome, right? For that, sending another amazing point on your way.
I unhitched Datu from the plow and led him to the mud hole. Joe was following me. Datu lay in the mud and was going whoosh, whoosh. Flies and other insects flew from his back and hovered in the air. A strange warm odor rose out of the muddle. A carabao does not have any sweat glands except on its nose. It has to wallow in the mud or bath in a river about every 3 hours. Otherwise, it runs amok. Datu shook his head and his widespread horns scooped the muddy water on his back. He rolled over and was soon covered with slimy mud. An expression of perfect contentment came into his eyes. Then, he swished his tail and Joe and I had to move back from the mud hole to keep from getting splashed. I left Datu in the mud hole. Then, turning to Joe, I said, "Let's go." And we proceeded towards my house. Joe was curiously looking around. "This place is full of coconut trees," he said. "Don't you have any coconut trees in America?" I asked. "No," he replied. "Back home we have the pine tree." "What is it like?" "Oh, it is tall and stately. It goes straight up to the sky like a skyscraper. It symbolizes America." "Well," I said, "the coconut tree symbolizes the Philippines. It starts up to the sky, but then its leaves sway down to earth, as if remembering the land that gave it birth. It does not forget the soil that gave it life." In a short while, we arrived in my nipa house. I took a bamboo ladder and leaned it against a tree. Then, I climbed the ladder and picked some calamansi. "What's that?" Joe asked. "Philippine lemon," I answered. "We will need this for our drinks." "Oh, chasers." "That is right, Joe. That is what the soldiers call it." I filled my pockets and then went down. I went to the garden well and washed the mud from my legs. Then, we went up a bamboo ladder to my hut. It was getting dark, so I filled a coconut shell with coconut oil, dipped a wick in the oil and lighted the wick. It produced a flickering light. I unstrapped my bolo and hung it on the wall. "Please sit down, Joe," I said. "Where?" he asked, looking around. "Right there," I said, pointing to the floor. Joe sat down on the floor. I sliced the calamansi in halves, took some rough salt and laid it on the foot-high table. I went to the kitchen and took the bamboo tube where I kept my lambanog. Lambanog is a drink extracted from the coconut tree with pulverized mangrove bark thrown in to prevent spontaneous combustion. It has many uses. We use it as a remedy for snake bites, as counteractive for malaria chills, as an insecticide and for tanning carabao hide. I poured some lambanog on 2 polished coconut shells and gave one of the shells to Joe. I diluted my drink with some of Joe's whiskey. It became milky. We were both seated on the floor. I poured some of my drink on the bamboo floor. It went through the slits to the ground below. "Hey, what are you doing?" said Joe. "Throwing good liquor away?" "No, Joe," I said. "It is the custom here always to give back to the earth a little of what we have taken from the earth." "Well," he said, raising his shell, "here's to the end of the war. Here's to the end of the war," I said, also lifting my drink. I gulped my drink down. I followed it with a slice of calamansi dipped in rough salt. Joe took his drink, but reacted in a peculiar way. His eyes popped out like a frog's and his hand clutched his throat. He looked as if he had swallowed a centipede. "Quick, a chaser!" he said. I gave him a slice of calamansi dipped in unrefined salt. He squirted it in his mouth, but it was too late. Nothing could chase him. The calamansi did not help him. I don't think even a coconut would have helped him.
Alright, class, the story is getting exciting. My first question is, what fruit did the narrator give Joe? You're right. The answer is calamansi. Sending amazing stars again to you, class.
"What is wrong, Joe?" I asked. "Nothing," he said. "The first drink always affects me this way." He was panting hard and tears were rolling down his cheeks. "Well, the first drink always acts like a minesweeper. I said. But this second one will be smooth. I filled the shell for the second time. Again, I diluted my drink with Joe's whiskey. I gave Joe his shell. I noticed that he was beaded with perspiration. He had unbuttoned his collar and loosened his tie. Joe took his shell but did not seem very anxious. I lifted my shell and said, "Here is to America." I was trying very hard to be a good host. "Here is to America," Joe said. We both killed our drinks. Joe again reacted in a funny way. His neck stretched out like a turtle's. And now he was panting like a carabao gone amok. He was grasping his tie with one hand. Then he looked down on his tie, threw it into one side, and said, "Oh Christ! For a while I thought it was my tongue." After this, he started to tinker with his teeth. "What's wrong, Joe?" I asked, still trying to be a perfect host. "Plenty. This dumb stuff had loosened my bridge work." As Joe exhaled, a moth flying around the flame fell dead. He stared at the dead moth and said, "And they talk of DDT. Well, how about another drink?" I asked. "It is what we came here for." "No thanks," he said. "I'm through." "Surely you will not refuse my hospitality?" "Okay, just once more." I poured the juice in the shells, and again diluted mine with whiskey. I handed Joe his drink. "Here's to the Philippines," he said. "Here's to the Philippines," I said. Joe took some of his drink. I could not see very clearly in the flickering light, but I could have sworn I saw smoke out of his tears. "This stuff must be radioactive," he said. He threw the remains of his drink on the Nipa wall and yielded, "Blaze! God damn you, Blaze!"
Now, class, what do you think? It seems like Joe, the American, who boasted about tasting all the kinds of liquor around the world, could not even handle our own lambanog. I guess nothing can really beat our own. And now for the last part of our story, let's continue.
Just as I was getting in the mood to drink, Joe passed out. He lay on the floor flat as a starfish. He was in a class all by himself. I knew that the soldiers had to be back in their barracks at a certain time, so I decided to take Joe back. I tried to lift him. It was like lifting a carabao. I had to call 4 of my neighbors to help me carry Joe. We slung him on top of my carabao. I took my bolo from my house and strapped it on my waist. Then, I proceeded to take him back. The whole barrio was wondering what had happened to the big Americano. After 2 hours, I arrived at the airfield. I found out which barracks he belonged to and took him there. His friends helped me take him to his cot. They were glad to see him back. Everybody thanked me for taking him home. As I was leaving the barracks to go home, one of his buddies called me and said, "Hey you, how about a can of beer before you go?" "No, thanks," I said. We Filipinos are mild drinkers.
Wow, that was a very amazing story. Right, class? Did you enjoy it? I'm sure you did.
This story was set in 1945 during the end of World War II and the liberation period of the Philippines. During that time, many American soldiers were still present even in the smallest barrio in the country.
Hello, class. Are you still there? Let us recall what we had.
Again, we had the story We Filipinos Are Mild Drinkers by Alejandro R. Rosas. Prior to the narration, the headmaster asked us to take note of the following points in the story. Number 1, the use of the non-English words calamansi and lambanog. Number 2, the detailed description of clothes. Number 3, the carabao's need for the mud hole. And finally, other customs particular to the Philippines.
Class, did you notice it? I'm sure you did. That is because local color is present in the story. Now, what is local color?
Local color is a style of writing derived from the presentation of the features, such as dialect, customs, behavior, of a particular locality and its inhabitants. It lends atmosphere to the story and contributes to the overall impact on the reader, thus helping the reader to understand why the character speaks and act as they do.
So in the story, the use of the non-English words calamansi and lambanog is an example of local color. Although in some parts of the story they were labeled as a lemon juice or a jungle fruit, but then the narrator preferred to use the non-English terms. Another is the detailed description of the narrator's clothes. It is a representation of local color since it is the most common clothes worn by our farmers. Remember that local color is used to emphasize the characteristics of the characters and also the place of the story. Its purpose is to highlight identity uniqueness that also appears to the culture. Is everything clear, class? Alright, to better understand what local color is, we will now move on to our learning task. I just want to remind you all that for every correct answers, you will be receiving amazing points. So keep on collecting them until the end of the video for an equivalent grade. Are you ready? Let's begin!
Culture check! The following slides contain statements of both Philippine and Western culture. Put a check if the item is part of the Philippine culture and X if not. You are given 5 seconds to answer each slide. Good luck! The answer is check because we, Filipinos, are known for practicing po and opo to show respect towards others. The answer is X, because we like having long conversations, may it be with our family, friends, or colleagues. That is how we keep connected with each other. Do you agree? Of course! The answer is check. If you have noticed, during Christmas and New Year, your family would have plenty of round-shaped fruits in the table. That is because we believe that it will bring us luck and blessings. This is X, because individualism is a common trait in most Western culture. Accomplishments are done for individual rather than group, and they value personal space very much. This is another check. Just like the practice of po and opo, pagmamano is also unique to us Filipinos.
Very good, class! The customs that we have mentioned in this activity are all common in our culture. You were able to answer our learning task correctly. And for that, here are your amazing points. For our next learning task, we will have a multiple choice type of exam. Read each question carefully. Choose the letter corresponding to the correct answer. Then write it on your paper. Are you ready, class? I'll give you 5 seconds to answer each question. Good luck, and let's begin.
Well done, class! Here are the correct answers. Number 1, letter A, local color. Number 2, letter C, Alejandro Roses. Number 3, letter D, Calamansi and Lambanog. Number 4, letter B, hospitality. And number 5, letter C, to make them feel they matter.
For this learning activity, you will receive another set of amazing points. Good job! Up next is your assignment. Please prepare to take a screenshot of this task and make sure to be guided with the rubrics for evaluating your work.
In a short band paper, write a slogan about Filipino identity. You may create your own style. You will be graded according to the following criteria.
Now we are down to the conclusion of our lesson for today. Let's have a recap of our objectives to check if we were able to accomplish them.
Identify social and cultural factors that help shape our identity. Check. Recognize local color as it was used in the selection. Check. Understand how the selection serves as an avenue in establishing Filipino identity. Check. And finally, distinguish Filipino costumes from foreign culture. Check.
Again, we have discussed about local color. Local color is a style of writing derived from the presentation of the features, such as dialect, customs, and behavior of a particular locality and its inhabitants. It lends atmosphere to the story and contributes to the overall impact on the reader, thus helping the reader understand why a character speak and act as they do. That's all for today, class. This has been Ma'am Imee, reminding you that you are amazing. Keep on reading, keep on learning. Thank you and goodbye.